We are talking the long-term horizon for gold. Joining me today, Gary Wagner of the goldforecast.com. Gary, I'm so happy to see you. You're a longtime friend. Happy to have you on here on my new show at Stansberry Research.
It is so great to be back with you, and congratulations. Oh, I'm pleased to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, happy to have you part of it. So, Gary, here's the million-dollar question. Have we seen the lows for gold?
Well, the question has a caveat. I believe that we might have if we get some sort of fiscal stimulus passed prior to President-elect Joe Biden inauguration. Because right now, the pressure that we saw in gold really came from the fact that everybody was expecting an additional round of fiscal stimulus. And then you had Mnuchin and Pelosi kind of dug in on both sides, and they got nothing done, even though they were, a couple of billion apart, but they couldn't strike a deal. That's where we saw the pressure. Then, kind of not so much out of nowhere, but yesterday it was announced that a bipartisan group of senators had put together a proposal for a stimulus package. And what is interesting is the government has to act by September 11th to fund the government to keep it running. And so this would be really the only time prior to next year when they could actually enact some sort of fiscal stimulus, and they would kind of piggyback it with the government spending bill that they have to pass unless they're going to shut down different programs. So have we hit the lows? I think it's headline driven, and it's going to be based on that factor.
All right. You've also written about this new Yellen Powell combo. What does that look like, and what could that mean for prices?
I think it's great. The two have worked together. Of course, Yellen is brilliant. She was, I believe, the first chairwoman of the Federal Reserve. So for her to work with Jerome Powell, who's the new Fed chairman, and her in the role of Treasury Secretary is kind of like a dynamic duo because they're very, very alike in the way that they think. They also seem to be not only extremely intelligent, but extremely sincere about wanting to help the American public and what steps are necessary to do that. That being said, I think that because of that team, any fiscal stimulus bill that gets passed would be greater than it would be without the two together.
So, key levels for you for gold. What does gold need to hit here?
The key levels for me were, first of all, a 50% retracement that occurred at about 1750. And the data set that I looked at for that Fibonacci retracement began in March when gold was at $1,450 up to the record high of 2,088. So the market has come down exactly half of that. It's given half of those gains back. Not only that, it crossed below the 200-day moving average because when we look at the 50, the 100, and the 200-day moving averages, really since about February of this year, they have been in pure bullish alignment, which means you would have your 50 on top, you would then have your 100, and then the 200 below. It wasn't until recently that we saw the 50-day cross below the 100-day, but gold still remained above the 200-day moving average. And as you know, investors look at that 200 as a really long-term indicator, whereas the 50-day is really telling you whether short-term momentum is growing or waning. So the fact that it's back over the 200-day, it needs to hold that level. In terms of absolute resistance, we go to the 23% retracement area, and that's about $40 from here. The key right now is whether or not stimulus is passed. If it is, we've seen it move about $80 in the last few days. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the market go back over 2,000 if fiscal stimulus is passed.
Okay.
If not, we could see pressure at.
Okay. Gary, let's wrap with silver. Is 2021 going to be the year? There's talk of, solar energy now with the Biden win and, the increase of solar panels. And we know how much silver goes into that. Is this the year that silver truly breaks out?
It certainly could be. It is used more and more in industrial uses. So it has a dual purpose. It's kind of gold's little sister in terms of a safe haven. However, there's a huge demand for it for technology. And as we become more and more a technological society, there is greater and greater need for silver. What did surprise me, however, is that when gold ran to 2088 in August, silver hit 30. It didn't hit its all time high. So I think that it could surprise some people when the markets run again to actually go and challenge the $50 mark again.
I think it's interesting that you use the word safe haven and silver in the same sentence, Gary, because we always talk about how gold is a safe haven, but to that you see silver as a safe haven despite the volatility that we've seen with this metal.
Absolutely. When we look at the first coins that were minted thousands of years ago, there was copper, there was silver, and there was gold. There has always been a intrinsic value placed upon specifically gold and silver as a precious metal with intrinsic value. In fact, if you go back to the Egyptian days, they prize silver more than they prize gold. Reason being, it's a harder metal and so much harder to work with. It was more valuable to them than gold was. I don't think we'll ever see that happen. But if you'd had asked me 10 years ago, will palladium ever exceed
Yeah.
the price of gold? I would give you 10,001 odds that it wouldn't, and I
Yep.
would have lost
Yep.
a lot of money. So you never know. But silver, I believe it's kind of the poor man's safe haven asset, because for those that can't afford any vast quantity of gold, if they want to put away part of it, because I still recommend that all investors have between 5 and 10% of their portfolio in the hard asset gold and silver. I think it's important. I think you can invest in whatever you want, but you need to have something in the precious metals. And I maintain that to this day.
Gary Wagner of the Gold Forecast. Come back more often. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Gary.
My
Thank you so
pleasure
much.
to be here. Great to see you again. And if we don't, happy holidays, and let's all stay healthy.
Yes, please. Amen to that. Gary Wagner. And thank you for watching. We'll have much more for you on Stansberry Research. In the meantime, you can follow us on all our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are all there. Thanks for watching. I'm Daniela Cambone.